Welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes, the podcast where we explore the tools, trends, and people shaping the future of business through artificial intelligence. Today, we're heading to Sweden, where a small but mighty team is rethinking one of the most core fundamental tools we use every day, the web browser. My guest is Charles, the founder of Strawberry Browser, an AI-powered browser that doesn't just help you surf the web, it works the web for you. Think research assistants, task automation, and productivity workflows, all natively integrated with AI agents or companions inside your browsing experience. Launched in 2024, Strawberry quickly picked up momentum and was voted the #1 product of the day and week on Product Hunt in April 2025, just a couple of weeks ago. With the 4-person team, a usage-based SaaS model, and hundreds of early adopters, Charles is solving for one of the most pressing needs in the digital world: ease and speed. He started coding at age 11, and now he's building tools to rethink how we interact with the internet itself. Let's get into it, but first, some business. This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster.com, the podcast agency that helps founders talk more and sell more through earned media. If you're a startup founder, investor, or thought leader looking to build authority, tell your story, and land real conversations with real audiences, Kitcaster is your shortcut to podcast guest appearances that drive revenue, followers, and funding. They've booked over 50,000 interviews for more than 800 founders and built a playbook that works across every B2B category you can think of. If you're ready to get interviewed on top podcasts, head to kitcaster.com to apply. Only takes 60 seconds, and the results speak for themselves. That's kitcaster.com by MoBurst, because your story belongs on a mic. Hey, Charles, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
You betcha. I want to kick this off with a question I'm curious about, particularly with builders and AI. It seems like the interface now for engaging AI is one of two things. Either it's a chat function or it's a glowing button that fixes everything. Which is your favorite?
Glowing button that fixes everything. Oh my goodness. I really cannot imagine. I feel like such an old person now. Well, what would that be referring to more specifically?
You know, it's like, let's say Airtable or HubSpot. All the big enterprise software companies, in the upper right-hand corner, it has a little glowing button that says, like, try our AI assistant. And you click on it, and no disrespect, but it's a little bit half-baked, and they're trying to figure out, like, what to do. You know what I mean? Like, how do we integrate the tool into this big software?
Okay, yes, I completely hear you now. And the funny thing is, usually you press that button and then the chat opens up, right?
Yeah,
so it's really just a chat underneath there anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think then the button is slightly better, I would have to say.
Yeah, and it popularized by the vibe coding apps. That's my favorite thing in Lovable, where it gives you this big error and you're like, oh, okay. And then it has a button that says, try and fix it. I'm like, don't mind if I do. Hit the button, and then it works through, but it gives you kind of the rundown of what it's doing, and like it shows the work, So yeah, it's so satisfying to hit that and it works, that I just see that being integrated into so many things, because, if it preemptively finds the problems you have and it knows it's wrong, the try and fix it button feels like a great solution, because you're not sitting there being like, this is wrong.
No, it's totally the one next step in the interfaces we have towards LLMs, I would say. One thing we really envision for Strawberry Browser, what I'm currently working on, is that your assistant will kind of give you tips whilst you're working. So say that you're inside of your Gmail, and you're moving a receipt from your Gmail to QuickBooks, and you do that twice. Well then, hey, after you doing that twice, it should just be able to say, oh, hey, Ryan, can I just do this for you? I know how to do this now. And you just press yes, you got the big glowing button, right? And then it will start automating that directly inside the browser.
Brilliant. And I love that you brought up Strawberry. This is your product. You were #1 product of the day on Product Hunt. Congratulations. I know it's a closed beta, and you had said that you'll open it up for anyone in this community here with AI for Founders, and we'll provide a link to do that. So what you're looking for is use cases for the tool. So that case sounds amazing. And I swear to God, a buddy of mine 2 days ago, he sent me a text. He's like, hey man, build me a tool that pulls all the receipts out of my inbox and puts them in a ledger. I swear to God. I don't know. I don't need to swear to God. It seems a little bit like overkill, but he did. And I was like, yeah, man, actually, I don't see how that would be a problem at all. With kind of the thought of like, you know what? Somebody's probably already built this. And it sounds like that's exactly something they could do. But not only expenses, right? Because I mean, honestly, there's a million tasks on our inbox right now, especially now where our inboxes are flooded, that if you're inside Gmail, there's a lot of repetitive tasks that if it's learning and it's like, oh, I see your behavior, let me take over, boom, big glowing button, it fixes it. Brilliant. I love it.
Yes.
Now, now Strawberry's a browser, and I think that's an important differentiation, right? So does this work on top of Chrome, or exactly what's going on with the browser?
Absolutely. So we are building this on top of Chromium, the open source software underneath Chrome. But we are building a fully standalone browser that has its own branding, its own style, its own way of working. And of course, the big difference is that you install it, and then it has a built-in team of AI companions, we call them. And the whole goal of these companions are to learn passively from you doing things, or you can teach them by, for instance, recording your screen and showing a workflow to automate your grunt work. And you should be able to automate these tasks with this team of AI companions without needing to write a line of code. It should be just like teaching an intern, right? That's the idea.
Why name them companions and not agents?
I think agents kind of has this techie, hard feeling to it. And, you know, a lot of our users are going to be non-technical. And companion kind of sounds sweet and soft, right? You know, they're your friends. That's kind of the idea. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Okay. And the idea of AI-powered browser is very interesting for a lot of reasons, for companions, of course, but then it also starts to introduce the idea of data privacy. And the big conversation going on right now with browsers is like, who has the agency to control their data and monetize their data? So when you're thinking about just data and security, what's the thought there from the browser perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, the idea here is that right now, as with any AI application, right? If you want to send some question that contains some sensitive information, you will have to send that to OpenAI. You will have to send that to Anthropic or whichever model provider you're using. You can choose, of course. And we don't log anything. Of course, these model providers, they also write in their terms, we don't save logs after 30 days. So they don't retain the data. They won't train the models on that data. But of course, in the future, we want to be able to take this one step further. Of course, with the rise of open source models and hardware getting better and better, soon you're going to be able to run like a DeepSeek Distill, Qwen DeepSeek Distill right on your laptop if you have one of the latest BT Macs, right? And then, of course, you should be able to use that model directly inside of Strawberry. So for those tasks that maybe require more sensitive data, it's never leaving your computer, right? Yes.
And the browser, is it connected to the cloud, or is this all running locally independently on each device?
Yeah, so right now, because the models that are needed they need to be very intelligent. It's simply not feasible today to have that running completely locally.
Yeah.
So when you go into it, you kind of have the expectations right now that I'm going to need to trust Microsoft or OpenAI or one of these big companies.
Amazing. Back to the idea of companions, and looking on your website, one thing I really like is you're giving them names and personalities. You know, I've talked a lot about on the show that as the interface is chat, that's going to move more to natural language, and we'll just be talking to it like Star Trek. So as you have competition Camilla, you have data extraction Denise, you have LinkedIn Linus. I love those names.
Yes.
But you could actually differentiate with different accents, perhaps different languages. That way, I think just the ease of use would be much better. You give them all
Yes.
different personalities, you give them all things. So when you're like, hey, Camilla, grab Denise, and I need you guys to work on this thing over here.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
I mean, it makes me so happy and excited for you to say that, because this is at the core of what we want to create when it comes to the experience of using these AI companions. They should be like your team, right? Your very own team of AI interns that just love working on even the most grunt work tasks, right? And
Yeah.
it should feel fun to work together with them. You should be doing the things that you're great at, which is like, of course, recording these podcasts, then doing all of the follow-up after the podcast, or sourcing all of these people you want to speak to. That should be done by your team, right? And they should be collaborating and working together and have these amazing personalities that make it fun to do your work, right?
Yeah. You mind if I get a little philosophic?
Absolutely. I love that.
So there's a contemplative technique that I really like called noting. And basically what you do is you sit it calmly and breathe, and you just notice how your body's feeling. So, and you note, you're just like, okay, I feel a little bit of warm sensation on the back of my neck. My shoulder blades feel a little bit tight. And as you start to notice different sensations in your body, you start to see there's a relative feeling to the emotional state or mental state that you're going through. So oftentimes,
Okay.
like, it easily, like if something scary happens, you feel it in your gut. You're like, oh, my stomach kind of feels sick.
Yep.
So what's interesting about like solving problems, especially when we're starting to get more sophisticated with companions, is that the better I'm able to like communicate what I'm going through, my frustrations. Ultimately, the companions are there to fix my problems. So it's about the skill that would become valuable is identifying what's driving you crazy, so you know how to tap in the help, and that will come, I think, auditory first, where you can say like, you know what, my morning ritual is driving me crazy because I have to copy the events from my calendar into the other calendar because for whatever reason, Google doesn't allow me to connect these things. So, and then,
Yep.
then, Google Calendar, Charlie is going to be like, oh, Ryan, let me take care of that for you. Thanks for explaining that so well. And it's like, great. Okay. As you're going through like, hey, actually, it's kind of irritating that I have to wait 3 seconds for these answers. It's like, oh, well, while that's cooking, why don't I pull up 2 different tabs? I guess the point is that the skill I'm trying to figure out which is going to be very important in the future, is how to carefully enunciate exactly what my problem is to a point where the companions can then build on top of that to create solutions.
Absolutely. I think this does at first glance and first thought seem like something that we aren't too far away from. Like we already have these models that can express themselves, but really capturing these small nuances. I think this is going to be really tricky, actually. I think this is going to be one of those achievements within AI that is like years away still. And, we're thinking about it every single day. And it's going to require some progress within the base models themselves. But if you just think about how the interface should be, how your models see you work, of course, a chat is not the way to go here, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we shouldn't write out a workflow with like drag and drop, like, oh, like that's the old mindset, right? The way we want to do it is, it should be like jumping into a call like this and like, okay, hi agents. And there are 4 boxes and your agents, they have their avatars and they're kind of looking at you like nodding their heads, right? And then you're like, okay, I'm going to show you guys how to do this. This is so annoying. Let me share my screen. And you share your screen. They kind of ask questions whilst you're working, right? Like a real colleague would do. And then, when they feel confident, like, okay, yeah, we can do this now. And the call is over. And then all of a sudden, they're opening up tabs in the background, automating things for you, just like that.
Yeah. No, and what I think it's brilliant. And what I love about what you're doing too is if it is we're adopting a chat function and it's already voice, that'll be enabled. And we can touch on what the future might look like too, but you're not making somebody go to a website. So when I've been building all these tools and then I just get frustrated working on the UI because I'm like, nobody wants to get an app. Nobody wants to go somewhere. So the more I thought about it, it's like the more I should just be building this into text messaging because that's where people already are. But the browser is the other place that people already are. They're already there. They don't need to go to the website.
Yes.
It's right there waiting for them wherever they're going.
Yes.
Which is brilliant. I love that, and so it becomes like more intuitive. And I'm with you here. My battery dies all the time. It becomes more intuitive, and you don't have to think about using it. It's just there to help. There's not a destination. You know what I mean? It's more like your buddy wants to go over to his house to watch the game, but he's got a terrible internet connection. And it's always glitchy. You're like, no, dude, I want you to come to my house to watch the game. So cool.
Yeah,
now,
I get you 100%.
Yeah. Looking into the future, here's one thing that I'm curious about, and I just want to run it past you. As we begin to more and more use the tools to solve problems, the tools get smarter so they can anticipate our problems before, and they're moving things that's more pleasing for me in a certain way. Now, my buddy Dave, said that the best AI tools make our humanness more human. It makes us more human. So one attribute I think that's interesting about human is kind of like attitude, mindset. If I'm engaged with the world in a curious and positive way, then the world organizes itself in some ways around that, in the same way that if you see somebody who's like brooding and all pissed off over here, you kind of stay away from them. So they're organizing their world in a way. Okay. So let's say that like the attributes, feelings that I have in my body are showing up in my expressions, which is creating a world around me. Is there going to be a future where they're not predicting your move in a browser or anything else, but rather they're taking your vital signs? It's going to know better than you do if your blood pressure's up, if you have a bit of a fever, if you're tearing up, if your pheromones are producing more. And so it will be able to orient things for you to create a feeling of whatever that may be for you,
Yes. Yes, I absolutely think that we're going to see that in the future. I think it's a tricky problem to solve, specifically that part about like the blood pressure and these vital signs. That might be Apple's job, or some hardware company because they have the Apple Watch, right? And then, all of a sudden Siri's like, oh, hey, Ryan, I noticed that you're feeling a bit stressed. Is it due to this email you just got? Or something like that, And then it could help you. But I think like, in not too long inside Strawberry Browser, you're going to be in a meeting with your companions and you kind of express yourself with the facial expressions. You seem more tense. You're like giving short answers. And, all of a sudden one of your companions like, hey, Ryan, you feel a bit tense, what's going on? What's happened? And you're like, oh shit, this thing happened, and then that could lead to resolving some kind of issue, right? I definitely see this as future.
Yeah,
and of course, or like Neuralink, all of that stuff.
You have a tough call, you have a tough meeting, you're feeling bad. Lunchtime, someone knocks on your door. You're like, did my companion order me flowers? What a thoughtful gesture.
Oh my God, you just gave me such a good idea right there. I'm writing that down right now, man. Oh my goodness.
Cool. Let's go through. Let's get out of science fiction land for a second here and talk about the other use cases that you're really excited for. I mean, inside the inbox, huge. Inside the calendar, huge. Scraping data and like pulling potent information off LinkedIn, huge. What else is like really exciting you about Strawberry right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot about those ad hoc moments as well, right? So say that you're a developer or a vibe coder, that's fine. I'm not judging. And you're inside some kind of documentation, right? And you're really having a hard time finding like, oh, where do I find my API key? Like, where do I create an API key in this platform? So then you will just open the sidebar and you will ask your companion, hey, can you see where I can find the API key? And it could be some link, obscure, far down on the page that you need to click to get there. And your companion will just point that out and, okay, thank you. And you'll click that. And these small moments, these micro frictions that get resolved, they don't seem significant, but they compound over time. And it just feels like you can stay in flow for the entire day when you have these moments, right?
Yeah.
So that would definitely be one. Another thing
one?
that we've... Yep.
Real quick, I'm just thinking about my problems right now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of a data hoarder. Let's call it that. So like, for example, like I have probably 75 different links, just short linked on my browser, so I can go there. And I know I got to go through them and get rid of stuff that I haven't, looked at in a while. But if I could be like, hey, browser Billy, like just if there is a link in my bookmark bar that I haven't used in 3 months, get rid of it and just have it go like, whoop.
Yes.
I mean, glowing
this
button,
is key, right? Yes. This, of course, your companions should be able to control the websites, click around, automate things on websites, but they should be able to do the same with the actual browser, right? So that definitely, it should be able to automate things inside the browser. But say that you want to have your browser in the style of Terraria or Minecraft, or like I want a Tamagotchi themed browser. Of course, one of your companions could just start editing the styling code inside of the actual browser, and all of a sudden, boom, you have a completely customized browser that suits your needs. Oh, actually, I wanted the tabs as a sidebar, right? Could you make the tabs fly around like small airplanes? So you're like vibe coding the entire browser experience, right?
In real time.
And this is like far down the roadmap, right? But it's just an example of what we can do.
It's great, and it's really sky's the limit. What it takes is like integration. And I'm curious about you and how you're integrating AI tools into your life. This weekend was kind of interesting. I went to a developer and they're building properties, and my wife and I were just going to check it out. And so we had some questions with the agent, and so my wife's asking a couple of really good questions, very specific. And the agent was like, well, if you go to the website and we'll look for it, she started looking, I just typed it into GPT and I was like, oh no, the answer is 18%, So for me, I'm trying to figure out every instance I can possibly use this to make my experience and everything I'm doing better. How about you? How are you kind of implementing different AI tools into kind of your daily life? Hey founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out aiforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit aiforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would be a massive fraud if I didn't say that I, of course, use Strawberry every single day, right? That's my favorite AI tool, but I'm biased, right? I'm biased. No, it's second most used AI tool, absolutely critical, and has saved me hundreds of hours, if not thousands at this point, is Cursor. And I am a developer. I've been programming professionally for 6 years. And, In the beginning, I was like, this is kind of like VS Code, but it doesn't have everything I want. So I was skeptical. But I promise you, man, we have become maybe 3 times, 4 times as productive just because the entire team is using Cursor.
Yeah.
And there are ways to use Cursor effectively. You need to know how to do that.
All right. Any quick tips for folks that are new to Cursor?
I mean, it's generally like you should have good coding practices. So if you vibe code the entire thing, that might be tricky. But if you learn the basics about like how can you create encapsulated code that has like single responsibility, these types of things, you can have like one file that is completely vibe coded that you don't fully understand maybe, but it has, you know, its own isolated world. And then one day, if you ever need to optimize it or really understand how it works, you can rewrite it with minimal effort, right? And then, I mean, after a while, you just get an intuition, I would say, by using it a lot for what the models are capable of, what they're not capable of. You can kind of see when a model starts writing if it understands what the prompt was, right?
Or
Do you
confused a little
agree
bit?
there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. You know, these strawberry companions ultimately are solving a problem. If you were to put a bow on it, what problem is strawberry solving?
Yeah. So right now, the main problem that we're solving is kind of this abstract thing where it's like you have all of these like walled gardens with loads of amazing data. LinkedIn would of course be one example, which would be tricky for a normal agent to kind of access. But since we're in the browser, all you need to do is you need to log in to LinkedIn, and then your agents will be able to access that via their own tabs, right? So you're taking this valuable data from walled gardens, could be a dashboard, and you're structuring it with the help of the AI system. So it's just looking at the page information and it's outputting it in a structured way. And then finally, that you would insert that into some service like a Google Sheet or some other CRM, right? That's kind of the thing that we're the best at right now that is saving our users the most time.
Yeah. It's giving people ease. So you're like, I don't want to look at the LinkedIn page like this. I want to see it itemized on a spreadsheet. Boom, done. Ease.
It's like, yeah, totally removing grunt work. You shouldn't be looking through hundreds of people in your connections tab, for instance, because you don't want to accept salespeople, but cool founders you want to accept. You know, you could just easily create a companion, teach one, hey, every week, every Monday, go through all of my connections and you know the criteria. So just do it, please.
Yeah, love it. Cool. You guys just launched pretty recently, still in a personal beta. How have you financed the project so far?
Yes, so we have actually taken in a pre-seed round from a tier 1 investor here in Europe, actually, and a few smaller investors in the US as well. And that has been the main way we have funded things so far, like computation costs. But otherwise, we've been really lean. And the plan is actually to move to San Francisco. So we are a Delaware C Corp. We are moving to SF. That's the place to be, right? When you're building cutting edge Gen AI.
Oh, Denver. You got to come to Denver. We got a nice squad here.
I will definitely come and visit. I would love to do that. But
it's cold. It's cold, just like Sweden.
Yeah, and guess what? I don't like that. I'm trying to move for a reason.
Nice. How much have you raised so far to date?
So I would actually prefer maybe not to speak about it right now. We still have not announced that yet.
No problem.
Oh, I see that. Anton Osika is actually calling me right now. Let me say, can't speak. Can I call in 30 minutes?
Get the strawberry
The CEO
companion, sing him a song.
Yeah. I actually had a demo for Anton the other day where I told my companion Laura, go to Anton's page, do some deep research about him, and then write a lullaby about everything we know about him and send it to him.
Beautiful. I love it. How many people are on the team?
So right now we are 4 people, and we're looking to have like a team of 7, so pretty lean until we start seeing some very clear signs of product market fit. Having like 100 users who use it every single day and saving many, many hours. At that point, we will definitely look at scaling up faster.
Awesome. Cool. How many customers do you have right now using it?
Yeah, so I mean, we just launched, so like I would say we have a few hundred users, but they're mostly on the free tier, right?
Yeah.
But definitely got some teams looking at buying a Teams plan. We have one large co-working space here in Stockholm that want to buy licenses for all of their companies.
Yeah.
So super exciting times.
It's great. And as you're looking at a business model, it's kind of a SaaS seat model, it looks like you're going for, and with usage. How are you kind of structuring the business model, like in kind of a pre-seed stage?
Yeah, so it's kind of copy pasting what Cursor have right now. You have the free tier that's super generous, so people can try it out and really test everything. And then the personal tier for $20. We'll see if we land on that or change that. And then $40 for the Teams plan. Mm-hmm. And the Teams plan will of course have some extra nice features. Goes without saying, but just having unified billing is a big one.
Absolutely. Nice. You mentioned you've been writing code for 6 years. Talk to us about your entrepreneurial journey. Have you had companies in the past, and how does that tie into what you're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started coding when I was 11, so I've been professionally coding for 6 years, but it started way earlier. And back then it was just creating video games and different apps for the iPhone, things like that. Got serious, actually built my first AI agents back in 2019. And that was actually an ecosystem simulator. So you had these small microorganisms that had simple feed-forward neural nets, and they would evolve over time to kind of attack each other and have herd behaviors. Managed to win like a international science competition with that, which is pretty insane.
Wow, did you really?
And then yes, I won like one of the largest in the world. I think there are 10 million participants each year. So it's in China.
Cool.
And yeah, and I have no idea how I managed to win that, because there were way more impressive projects, man. Like one Turkish girl had managed to find a way to detect if you're more prone for depression through using quantum mechanical analysis on the blood.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't know, man. Yeah. But I think the project was just really creative, right? And I had this thing going where, I had the AI aspect, where I had programmed, of course, the brains of each agent, each organism. So when a biology jury came up, I would only talk about the AI part. But then when an AI jury came up, I would only talk about the biology part. So I would leverage the things that they didn't know that well. And they were always super impressed. Anyways, fast forward after that, felt, I don't need to do university. I can just, I felt like I was on top of the world, right? So founded a green tech company, which I was the CTO for. We actually ended up being acquired by a customer. So they bought up the IP there. And then after that, worked on a video game, actually. So built a video game company, released a few games. The most popular one was a game called Fishards, which is a PvP multiplayer game where you play as a fish wizard and you shoot spells at each other with your friends. And then after that, did some consulting for the Swedish government. You can kind of hear that I've been all over the place. Finally, now, about 2 years ago, I guess. Almost 2 years ago, GPT-4 API drops. Played around with that, did some consulting work, realized that, hey, I want my agents to be able to go into LinkedIn and do things, right? And for that, since there was no good API, you'd have to spin up a browser and maintain all of the things related to the browser. So essentially built a SDK that developers could use to build web agents. And then that eventually evolved into a more complex version of that initial project. And then eventually evolved into what you see today, which is not a technical product, but still has the vision to build this internet with web agents communicating and automating things. But we're kind of making it accessible for non-technical users as well.
Incredible. How old are you?
24.
24. Unbelievable. Married? You got kids?
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that.
Awesome. When you're thinking about going to San Francisco, obviously there's a community there that's waiting for you. But aside from that, what are the benefits of being in San Francisco or America as it relates to Sweden?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Stockholm is kind of touted as the Silicon Valley of Europe, but it still pales in comparison to the energy and the kind of knowledge flying around in San Francisco. You have all of the great partnerships. You're way closer to all of the great partnerships with all kinds of amazing companies. And all of the world's largest companies are sending their product managers to San Francisco to figure out their AI strategy. And, the best talent that is the most bleeding edge within this space, they're all in San Francisco. Like, all of my best Swedish founder friends are in San Francisco for this reason. And, the capital market is maybe comparable for early stage, but medium and late stage, it's completely different.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are just a few of the reasons, to be honest.
No, it makes sense. I don't do politics on the show, but Trump's selling green cards for $5 million. You think it's a good deal?
I think it's just easier to get a normal lawyer and do it. I think that's going to be way cheaper as well. So, I mean, maybe that one is good for people that usually could not legally get one, or just want to do it really fast. I don't know. I don't know.
Cool. Where can people connect with you best online?
I would say probably LinkedIn and X right now.
Got it. Cool, man. When you are raising your next round, will you send me a deck?
Of course. I will do that.
Yeah, this is really exciting.
Now Anton is calling again here.
We can wrap it if you need to take the call.
Yeah, that would be nice actually.
Let's do it.
To get some good advice from him.
Cool. Charles, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So let's talk about podcasts for a second. You're listening to one, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you so much. But have you ever thought about being a guest on a podcast? Like seriously, imagine sharing your story and your expertise and your business all on shows where your ideal customers are already listening. Kitcaster connects founders and entrepreneurs, professionals with podcasts that actually make sense for their brand. No pitching, no guessing. You just have great conversations on great shows. And the best part, Kitcaster handles everything. You just show up and bring your A game, Kitcaster does the rest. This is hands down one of the easiest ways to grow your personal brand and just create a wellspring of content for short video, for blog posts, for speaking engagements, for whatever. So if you've been thinking, yeah, I really need to step up my content game, go to kitcaster.com and apply today. Now back to the show.